The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the policy or position of ONTV's management, staff, or board of directors.
Detroit basketball.
Hello and welcome in to Views from the Sidelines. I'm your host, Joey Tyson, my partner, Malik Hill. We took a week hiatus, and it was probably good because we are going to need some more time to rest our brains after what happened last night. But we'll get to that in a minute. That's kind of the big discussion. The NBA draft lottery just happened, and there's more little news and notes in the NBA. Ja Morant, he's back in the news. Not even 90 days since he was caught with a gun on Instagram Live, has gotten caught again. Malik, what do you make of this? How does this affect the Grizzlies? How does it affect Ja? Where does he go from here?
There's a chance he could be suspended indefinitely, which really just completely throws off the Grizzlies' plans for next season. But can you blame them? Can you really blame them?
No.
I mean, the way he's acting and the way – now, I'm not going as crazy as everybody else saying, like, he should get kicked out of the league, and this is like –
right.
He's a young dude in his 20s doing very stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of athletes in their 20s have done. Mm-hmm. Now, we all agree it's not smart.
Right.
It's the complete opposite of smart. He's acting like someone that he did not grow up as. Mm-hmm. We know he's not this type of person.
Right.
But, yeah, whatever suspension comes down on him, I don't know if I could really blame the NBA for putting it on him because you can't keep doing it over and over again,
right,
and expecting them to just let it go. Mm-hmm. Like there's so much that has to change with the people around him, his decisions, the social media stuff. He needs to get rid of social media.
Yeah,
there's so much he has to do in order to get back to where he was.
Yeah,
and it's just a weird situation.
I think the scary thing is that the last time that we saw something to this somewhat nature was Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenton. And that basically ended their careers for the most part.
Yeah, Gilbert came back and played as like old Gilbert, but he wasn't the same.
But he was a superstar beforehand, so like at least he had that to kind of fall back on. Crittenton, not so much. So now it's like I don't expect Ja's career to necessarily be ruined right off this because he's so young and he has a lot of time to bounce back.
It is a very important point in his career.
Yeah. And like a lot of players have said, like there's a lot of players that own guns in the NBA. There's a lot of people. That's like the big thing around the United States of America. Do we have a gun problem? Do we not? That's like a normal thing, and it's not so odd. But the odd part is that he is a face of a franchise. He's not even just like a good player on the team. He is the face of that franchise and the future of that franchise. And at the end of the day, like people are saying, NBA is a business. So they have these bottom lines and all this stuff that they have to show, and they have to have a quality image, even though we know all these professional sports images aren't even as good as they want them to be. But yeah, it's going to be a lot. Do you think he deserves like a half-season suspension, full season suspension, less? Where do you think
I think full season is too much.
Too far?
Even like you said, the gun culture in this country is a whole thing that we're not going to get into. But being on video holding a gun on Instagram to me doesn't warrant a full season suspension. Mm-hmm. Now, if it went to another level and there were altercations and guns being pulled out, pointing at each other, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. That's where it gets very, very serious. Mm-hmm. But you have to take he has to have some type of punishment. Yeah. It can't just be a little slap on the wrist. Right. You have to make he already made an apology, but it has to be more than just an apology. And you can't play like the first 10 games. Like,
I think that's the thing too. Is like the first time Adam Silver, it felt like kind of gave him a slap on the wrist. Like young kid made a mistake, whatever. He's gotten into a couple incidents here and there. Now it's like, okay, you kind of like ruined our trust, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so now I think there's a lot of pressure on Adam Silver to come down a little bit harder. And yeah, I would expect at least like a half season. I've heard a lot of people say maybe after the trade deadline or something around that, or All-Star break maybe. But the interesting part will be for his endorsements. He's a Nike guy, Powerade.
Yeah.
Like he's got big endorsements. So that's going to be the hard part for him, and we'll find out. But it's unfortunate, especially when you see like we're kind of getting to that point where we're changing of the guards, where LeBron is 38, Kevin Durant is getting up there, Chris Paul is getting up there. Like these new young guys got to step up, and Ja Morant was one of the leading guys. So it's just kind of sad to see. But hopefully, at some point he figures it out. You got to hope. Another news tidbit. I think it was now basically 2 weeks ago, basically when we last did the show. Hunter Dickinson finally made his decision, and I don't think any of us were right. I don't think.
I predicted Georgetown.
Yes,
it was in his Final Four, but
yeah, I don't even remember where I thought that he was going to go. We made the other speculation of Maryland or something.
Yeah,
but he decided to go to Kansas, and that's terrifying. I don't know about you, but to me, going to a powerhouse like Kansas, who basically needs a big man at the moment, he could be really good for them. What do you make of this move for not only Kansas, but Hunter Dickinson himself? And
I think him and Bill Self are a really nice player-coach tandem. Mm-hmm. They're both intense, and they both get the crowd going. Him in that crazy Kansas student section, I feel like that place is going to be going crazy when he's really getting in a role, because he likes to hype up the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And he said his biggest thing was NIL.
Yeah.
The money. He said he wasn't making as much money as he thought he should be making at the University of Michigan, which that's another conversation once again for another day.
Yeah.
Why Michigan has to raise up their NIL stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't see it going bad at all, unless he gets on the podcast and starts doing even more crazy stuff. I wouldn't expect Bill Self to allow a lot of the stuff Juwan Howard allowed the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
But
I also wouldn't be shocked.
On the court, I don't see it going bad on the court.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if he calls out Juwan at some point.
Hunter Dickinson?
Yeah.
I think he already said so. I can't remember the exact quote.
He did say
He
something.
already said something little about Juwan, but
yeah.
Listen, I blame the whole season on Juwan. So I would probably agree with him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that'll be interesting, because that's also like Michigan tends to play Kansas every so often in college basketball. So we'll see if they set that matchup on the schedule at some point. Would be very interesting. All right. The meat and the potatoes, the classic.
This is a special one.
We may have to go back.
This is a really good one.
We may have to go back to some of our early episodes. I don't remember if you remember. I think we did it to Chris once where we
we're going to edit in black and white, play some sad music. Yeah. Because the NBA draft lottery was last night, and the Pistons were the worst record in the league last night.
And they didn't tank.
No.
Cade Cunningham got hurt.
Yeah,
and without him, they don't really have an identity.
I think that's the thing people forget. Is like people are like, oh, they tanked and blah blah blah.
They played the guys.
They competed, and they were similar to what they did last year, where their margin of loss was not that bad comparatively. So they had the same odds as I think the top 3 picks all have 14% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. So the Pistons going into it had a basically, I think 51% chance or something to get the 5th pick, and then basically you're another 50% in the top 4. So it's like a 50-50 thing, and it's been fun the way they've changed the draft lottery, because now, to this day, spoiler alert, the number 1 pick has still never gotten, or the worst record has still never gotten the number 1 pick since they changed it. And the Pistons follow suit with that. And they got their worst possible outcome. They got the 5th pick. That is the worst pick they can get. It was also worse because last night, every pick went according to their record. And until the 5th pick, and the 5th pick is the worst because that's just before they go to break. So the top 4 picks, they go to break to, hype it up, blah, blah, blah. And the other problem is that Mark Tatum kind of you can see the card before he says it, and you can just see that red and blue, and I'm like, stunned. And all day, the problem was too, all day, I literally felt like I was going to throw up. This is one of the biggest.
I knew so many people that told me that, and I was completely fine the whole day.
Yeah. It's just one of those, it's like one of the biggest draft lotteries in years. The Pistons have the worst record. There is a generational talent that could turn around this franchise.
Potentially 2 or 3.
Yeah. Maybe. But one that people think is almost surefire. Now, that's yet to be seen because of his size. We've seen guys like Porzingis and Yao Ming and stuff like that.
From what we've seen, he looks like something we've never seen before.
Right. So when I saw the Pistons at 5, my heart just sank. And I know you said you laughed. I almost couldn't help myself either and just laugh because it was just so awful. And it was like a point where we thought this team could turn around for the better. If we just had Victor Wembanyama and it would have fit so perfectly. And to miss out on that chance hurts so bad.
Not just miss out on that chance.
Yeah. I mean, Scoot Henderson, a lot of people, say he's also a generational talent. He's got John Morant type talent. I still question how it would work with Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, and Scoot. But at that point, I was okay with it. I wanted one of the top 2 picks. 3, I would have been acceptable of. Brandon Miller kind of struggled down the stretch in the tournament, but he's still one of the top prospects. Past 3, there's a lot of high upside, but nobody knows how they're going to pan out. And so for the Pistons to get back-to-back 5th picks where they should have been top 3, it just hurts all the more.
This is reminiscent of what the Knicks and the Knicks fans have been dealing with for the past 20 years and what the Washington Wizards and their fan base have been dealing with for so long. Outside of John Wall, what have the Wizards hit on in the draft? Brad Beal.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
The last time the Wizards got the number 1 pick, they picked Kwame Brown. If that tells you anything.
Okay. Well, wasn't John Wall the number 1 pick?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure John Wall was the top pick.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll look it up later.
I'm very sure he was the first pick in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then, the Knicks could never get the number 1 pick. They missed on top guys. They barely missed on Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is kind of a back-to-back year run where even though we got Jaden Ivey and we're happy with Jaden Ivey, like you said.
Yeah, John Wall was the number 1. Okay.
Yeah, generational talent, one of the greatest prospects we think we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pistons don't get close.
Yeah.
They don't get close.
And we said it before, off air. I think the worst part is last year it was acceptable because we knew there was a chance that Jaden Ivey would fall to 5.
Yeah.
And we thought he would be, just as good as those other 5. This year it's different to where you fall out of the top 3, you have no idea what you're going to get. Now, we could get somebody good, maybe, goes back to In Troy We Trust, similar to the Lions, but it's scary, and it just sucks.
It's uncertain, and I've listened to multiple Pistons podcasts today where there's a lot of talk about Cam Whitmore and Jarris Walker.
Yeah.
And Pistons fans weren't excited to be getting into these weeds a day after the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Some people didn't even know those names.
Yeah.
And now they have to learn them.
And then meanwhile, I'm so I don't know how to feel either. The Spurs ended up getting the number 1 pick. Part of me
almost seems rigged. Almost seems rigged.
Part of me loves it because the Spurs have been slowly rebuilding. They've kind of seemingly made a lot of their young guys good through development and things like that. They do it the right way. But at the same time, I have that hate for the Spurs, that they're just an organization that keeps finding ways to be relevant.
David Robinson in the 80s, Tim Duncan in the 90s, and now Victor.
Yeah.
They hit on potentially three all-time generational big men.
And Greg Popovich literally did not retire for this reason, most likely, that they could rebuild. And now they're back to being a great team. Plus, they have Boris Diaw, who's French. He's on their staff.
And you already know Tony Parker is going to be.
Right.
Yeah, every French player that's ever played for the Spurs
They
will
are
be in
great.
contact with Victor.
They are great with international talent,
Yes.
just overall as an organization.
Exactly.
So that's frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good for Victor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like
it's
a
a
match
good
made in
situation
heaven.
for him.
Listen, he didn't have to
They
go to
need
Houston.
they need a big. They got good players: Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones is starting for them.
Yeah.
He played pretty good down the stretch. Like, they're going to be a decent team just with one player. That's the problem. The Pistons could have been that. We kept talking Victor, Jalen Duren. Like, that would have been such a beautiful combination. And we were just forever just in the dumps. It's still the sad boys era.
Listen,
That's what this tells me.
You got to do your research on Oscar Thompson and Taylor Hendricks and a bunch of guys you probably didn't want to hear about until it was draft time.
You know the one that I've heard a lot of people say recently?
Who?
People are just saying we should just trade down and get Grady Dick.
That's absurd.
We need a shooter on the wing.
If you trade the pick, you get a player back, which is
yeah,
another
we would
scenario we can get to.
It would be
A lot of people think they can package the fifth pick and potentially give it to maybe Portland. For it would be a blockbuster trade if they somehow got Dame. Mm-hmm. That would turn everything around.
Well, I think Portland has come out and said that they are looking to trade the third pick because they want to stay in their soft retooling mode that we keep making fun of them for. But yeah, maybe there's a chance we could trade the fifth, and who do they even want from us, though? I guess they could take somebody like Marvin Bagley or something like that.
Listen, Isaiah Stewart, everybody outside of Cade, Jaden, and Duren.
Right.
And maybe James Wiseman, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It seems like they like him a lot. Yeah. Everybody outside of those three, maybe four, are up in the air.
Yeah.
We don't know if they're going to be around.
Mm-hmm. It's just disappointing. And then the other two, and then like Charlotte getting the 2 pick, I think that's going to work out. Like LaMelo and Scoot.
That is amazing on paper.
I think that can be good. And I also think that Charlotte's still developing. I think Mark Williams can be somebody.
He could definitely be a starter.
And with those two guys creating, Mark Williams kind of going down in the paint and just being a rim protector, they could be decent.
They might need another coach. And isn't Michael Jordan stepping down from ownership? I can't remember if he's stepping down from
I don't
ownership.
remember either.
But they still need some changes to become decent again because they've fallen hard in the past year. But getting Scoot Henderson, that's a shot in the arm.
Yeah. So it's still the sad boys era. But you did mention coaching. That's another big topic we have to touch on. A lot of coaching carousels. Dwayne Casey is out as the Pistons head coach. Monty Williams is out for the Suns. Mike Budenholzer is out from the Milwaukee Bucks.
Did we talk about Nick Nurse?
I don't think so.
Okay, Nick
I don't
Nurse
think we talked
is out
about
in
anybody.
Toronto.
That's how it's been in 2 weeks. Everybody.
3? Well, is that 4 coaches of the year or just 3?
Yeah. Well, it's also
Monty won. Budenholzer, I think, won.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
The other thing is like 4 of the last 5 championship teams, their coaches are without a job right now.
It's a weird time.
Frank Vogel,
weird time in the
Mike
NBA.
Budenholzer. It's wild.
Yeah.
Who would you say your top prospect is for the Pistons as far as coaches go?
I personally wish they would give a hard look at Sam Cassell. He is a guy that's been waiting for his chance. I don't think just bringing in a big name is going to just solve everything. Mm-hmm. Now, if you could get Monty Williams or Nick Nurse, or cool, they're really good coaches. It's possible.
Yeah.
But I think you look at a situation like New Orleans where they had Stan Van Gundy. All of us knew on paper it was weird. and it didn't work. You bring in Willie Green, not a ton of experience, but a young assistant that got along with young players and knew the game of basketball, and it's been working. Now, the Zion injuries and stuff that he can't control have been going on. But they've been a decent to good team since Willie Green took over, and they respect him as a coach. I think Sam Cassell is that same type of guy that could come into Detroit and build that rapport with the young roster and just build as a team again. That's why I like Sam Cassell so much. But, yeah, the options they've had, a bunch of assistants that have been on winning teams. I don't know much about a lot of them, but, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in a similar vein. I don't know much about Sam Cassell. I hated him in his playing days, so I have like a personal vendetta.
Respect Sam Cassell.
But that's just me. I hated his game.
He was a great point guard. A great role-playing point guard.
But personally, that's just me. That's just one of my guys that I didn't like. But I think, I think the top guy has got to be Monty Williams. He's been known to be able to develop young guys, especially guards.
If they got the top pick, I think there's a good chance they might have got him.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying.
Or top 2.
Yeah, that Monty Williams may have been able to do that if the Pistons got Victor, which would have been great. But now, we might not. So I just want somebody with experience, I guess. I don't know exactly who fits the bill the best, but I think there's a lot of good options out there, and I'm kind of with you. I don't really want to go for an assistant that's unproven, mostly just because I don't think that this team is in that position right now. Like, they need somebody that can give them structure first. Then if that doesn't work out, then maybe you go from there. I think Dwayne Casey he's kind of in between these two eras now, so to hold on to him didn't make sense. But I like that kind of guy still. I like that idea of going for a guy that's been there, has won, can develop young guys. But I don't know. It's going to be tough either way. Okay, so that's all the sad news. The other sad news is the Warriors are out of the playoffs. Sad news for me. They were my pre-playoff pick, I guess. The Lakers kind of ousted them.
More than kind of.
Yeah.
They just put them away, honestly.
Anthony Davis consistently tore them apart. Had a couple 30 and 20 rebound games. Steph Curry tried his hardest, and he was super exciting at one point. And then Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson just disappeared. Do you think they bring it up every year, but do you think this is the end of the Warriors dynasty?
I said the Warriors were over 2 years ago, and I was dead wrong. And they ended up winning the championship last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is it. To me, it would take a lot for everything to just crumble all of a sudden.
Yeah.
When you have Steph Curry, and I don't know if Draymond is leaving. He's a clutch guy. He might go to the Lakers or some other winning team, Phoenix, I don't know. If you keep that core together, there's always a chance they can make a run. There's always a chance. Now, you need to do a good job of rebuilding the core around them, because it's clear after what happened with Draymond and Jordan Poole, things just got off to a weird start and never got back to where they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole had a good season last year, played well in the playoffs, didn't improve this year. Andrew Wiggins had that whole weird situation, came back and played well, but they weren't the same team. They traded back for Gary Payton II, didn't click.
And he got hurt.
And he got hurt. So, yeah, there are a lot of things they need to figure out in terms of how do you rebuild a really good team around Steph Curry, who's still great, but is still getting older.
Yeah.
And do you keep Klay? Is Draymond staying? I don't know right now. We'll have to see.
The things I've been hearing is that Klay is expected to possibly take a pay cut. So maybe Draymond Green does that. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he finally wants his money, which is fair. They also have to now start thinking of Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga coming off their rookie deals.
It seemed like Steve Kerr kind of gave up on Kuminga.
Yeah, and apparently he wants more playing time. So who knows what's going to happen with that. I think they just need to do kind of an identity shift. Like, when they were winning, they were also a really good defensive team that was shooting threes. Now they're just like shooting threes. And if they're not making them, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
They didn't have anybody that stepped up necessarily defensively. I did see Draymond in the last couple games seemed like he tried a lot harder and he had some good games. But we're not seeing as good of defensive presence from Clay. Gary Payton II wasn't as good as he was last year. They just need to have somewhat of an identity shift, and they need to bring in some more role guys that are going to be lockdown defenders or something like that. I still think they need to bring back some size. Their small ball lineup, it seems like people are starting to figure it out. And yeah, it sucks that the Lakers won. That's like the worst part about it. The Lakers move on. Everybody gets.
I
to
was
talk
very
about them.
unhappy about it, but as I watch them, it's a pretty cool story seeing where they started at the beginning of the season, and the roster they had, and how hopeless it seemed, and how Russ was still doing Russ, and it was all over the place. Around the All-Star break, you make moves, you get guys back that make more sense, and now they're firing on all cylinders for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, then you have Austin Reeves just getting better and better as the season goes on. He's super confident. D'Angelo Russell has his ups and downs, but he still has his really good moments. Rui Hachimura.
Yeah.
How do you explain
To me,
his insanely hot shooting in these playoffs, going beyond anything he's done in his career?
But to me,
he's just on a crazy
that's
hot
like
streak.
The annoying thing about so many of these top teams is like, and maybe even the kind of the middle of the road teams that are like playing Dylan Brooks. They think like, you think they have no depth, and then you see the teams like the Lakers just make smart moves. Like, how did nobody else see that? Like, I think of that all the time. Like, guys that are like, when you think of all the guys that were sitting at home, like Jamal Crawford, stuff like that. But then you think of the guys like Rui Hachimura that was taken fairly high in the draft for the Wizards, somehow never was able to get enough playing time in that rotation for some reason. And then you just goes to the Lakers and you get a brand new setting and you're like, yeah, this is who I thought he would have been this whole time. But the Wizards just wanted to give up on him, I guess. I don't know. To me, it's crazy how these teams are able to do that. Now, maybe it's just, that's where better coaching and stuff comes in. But sometimes I just think some of these,
You just need the opportunity.
some of these teams are just dumb and they don't let it blossom and see what happens. Same with, even to an extent, like Kristaps Porzingis, like getting the right opportunity, being able to
Injuries
stay
have been
healthy.
the biggest thing for him. Yeah.
Right. But people saying that like he's no good, and then you look.
He just had his best season.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of players like that, I feel like, all the time in the NBA that people just kind of overlook and forget about. I don't know. That's why like guys like Kevin Huerter are some of my favorites, because like you don't realize how much they can help a team. He didn't help the Kings this year, but he's helped teams in the past. So it's just interesting for me.
So yeah, the Lakers won that series 4-2.
Yep.
6 games. I expected it to go 7.
I did too,
but
I really wanted it to. And then on the other side, we had Denver beating up on Phoenix. Oh boy.
Listen, we'll get to the East.
Yeah.
But Nikola Jokic, that debate between him and Joel Embiid, it's pretty much wrapped up, isn't it?
Yes.
Because the level of dominance and, okay, so DeAndre Ayton, he may be the softest center in the league.
Yeah.
But he's still 7 foot, like 250. It's not easy to score on DeAndre Ayton nonstop. What Nikola Jokic does, that 50-point, like 16 rebound game in Phoenix,
yeah,
he has been a machine in these playoffs, and he hasn't slowed down. It's been incredible to watch, and the team has been locked in, honestly, on both ends, defense and offense.
Yeah. So the Suns end their season after making the big trade for Kevin Durant. Devin Booker tried his darndest. I think he was one of the best players in the playoffs. Kevin Durant got going at the end, but Chris Paul once again found his way to the bench from injury.
He got hurt. Their bench was horrible. Yeah.
They had no
They
depth.
got a big game from Campaign in Game 5, but it didn't matter.
I was hoping that my boy bubbled TJ Warren would come back. But
I don't know what happened to him. Maybe he's just not in the right situation.
I'm not
He didn't
sure.
play much in Brooklyn either when he came back.
Well, and then like Torrey Craig was a big key for them in the first round, and he did nothing against Denver. So the Suns are out, and Denver moved on to the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers, which that first game happened last night. Then we'll go to the East. And Denver just looked dominant from the get-go.
They looked dominant from the get-go, but then
the
Lakers adjusted.
Mm-hmm. But Denver could not miss a shot for most of the game.
It was kind of silly in the fourth quarter. They were throwing up like desperation shots and they were falling.
Yep.
Which, like you, I was very happy about.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Denver win it.
Yep.
But yeah, their adjustments. Nikola Jokic
had another 30, 20.
He had 19 and
15,
16 in the first half. It's one of the best first halves individually I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He couldn't be stopped.
The wild thing for me with Jokic is like, I watched really closely in this game, and he takes, like when he gets in the paint and he gets a rebound, an offensive rebound, and he goes back up with it, and he gets hit so hard, but yet at the tip of his fingers, the ball comes off so soft still. Like he has
his
such perfect touch around the basket. It's incredible.
It's hard to describe. Like I saw him play live against the Pistons, and it was the most casual 30-point triple-double I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like nobody could guard him because he plays so slow. Nobody can adjust to what he does.
Yeah.
So when he gets a shot off, it's always off the tip of those fingers.
Yeah.
And it just falls in. It's crazy to watch.
I think he was 3 or 4 of 7 from 3 last night. Like, he was shooting a lot.
He's shooting like 45% from 3.
Yeah. And a lot of people argue it wasn't all on Anthony Davis, but it was a good amount.
In the first half, he only had like 2 rebounds. But when you end with like 40 and 8,
yeah,
you can only complain so much. AD showed up in the second half.
Yeah, but those guys, but the thing is, I think that's impressive is like AD is known as one of the best defensive bigs, and Jokic made him look silly at times. Just shows you how good he is.
Yeah, but Jamal Murray had over 20. KCP
he had 30.
had over 20. He had 30.
Murray had like 30.
KCP had like 22. Jokic had 33, 21, and I can't remember what assist he had.
Yeah, like 13 or 14.
Yeah, but he was beyond elite. LeBron had a good game, but you could tell from the jump the Lakers were adjusting to playing in Denver. They looked tired after the first few minutes.
Yeah.
And Denver was just running up and down, doing whatever they wanted.
Austin Reeves had another really good game, shooting the ball well.
Those threes in the fourth. Whenever it's time to show up, he just I don't know what it is about him.
He's fun to watch.
He's got something in him.
Yeah. So the Lakers are kind of at that point where we see a lot of teams like they need one other guy to step up, it feels like, at some point. Or LeBron to just become dominant LeBron again, I guess.
When Rui Hachimura has these, he shot the lights out again tonight, but you can't expect it every game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you are right. They probably need a few LeBron games where he goes for over 30.
Yeah.
But for them to win, they need Anthony Davis to be their best player.
Yeah.
And that's what they've been relying on through these playoffs.
Right.
LeBron can't carry a load like he used to be able to. So, yeah, they do need a third person. It might continue to be a rotation between, like, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Samalani Walker. D'Angelo Russell wasn't very good last night. He didn't really show up.
Right.
But, yeah, Denver, they're here for it. They're going to be tough for the Lakers to beat. If the Lakers don't win this next game, it could get really tough for LA.
Yeah. It's going to be real tough. But I like Denver. It's cool to see.
I'd love to see them make the finals for the first time. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Denver has never made the finals.
Yeah, and you think of all they've had solid teams in the past.
They ran into Kobe in 09. What do you do about that? You ran into Kobe.
Yeah.
And besides that, we don't.
Yeah,
there's no other.
It's all back way before our time with Alex English and Kiki Vandeweghe.
And they didn't even make really deep runs then either.
No. So yeah, it's cool to see Denver kind of to where they were supposed to be, but they've had so many injuries the last couple of years. So now we flip flop to the East. The Knicks are out. Also, my other team that I wanted to keep going.
The Knicks deserves credit.
Yeah,
they gave it everything they had. They came up short, and there was some disappointment because the Miami Heat didn't have Tyler Hero.
Right.
Jimmy Butler he didn't go nuclear like he did against the Bucks. And Bam Adebayo, just completely outplayed Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
So those are disappointments. But you know Jalen Brunson is your guy now. You know what he is.
Is he?
Let's not do this, Joey. Let's not do this. Jalen Brunson was elite in that series.
He was.
Jalen Brunson was the real deal, and he is.
The only thing that I will say, and it's hard to know now because R.J. Barrett stunk, Julius Randle stunk. They didn't have Emmanuel Quickley, who I think was actually pretty key for them.
Yeah.
Could have maybe changed the series a little bit, maybe. I get a little bit nervous. I know you're a big Jalen Brunson guy, but I get...
You know, as a guy that wanted the Pistons to sign him, you know how all in I've been.
Yeah.
And seeing this he's my second favorite player now besides Jimmy Butler.
I just get a little nervous. He's a Luka type, maybe a James Harden type that, yes, he can do all these things, but then it slows down the offense. Like, that's part of the Knicks' issues. They play a half-court offense, and then they wait till 4 or 5 seconds left on the shot clock, give it to Jalen Brunson, and hope that he makes it. Now, he's done it. I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Brunson, like, from his skill level. But I just wonder if that's like a...
I honestly think that's just a part of them. They got flaws in their offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, R.J. Barrett isn't the best shooter.
Yeah.
Julius Randle, his step-back threes... that's the most frustrating thing I think I've seen this entire NBA season. Mm-hmm. Watching Julius Randle take like 5-6 step back threes a game is infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they trade him or not, but he has to stop.
Would you
that.
welcome him as a Piston? For like
back to Jalen Brunson.
For like the 5th pick?
So back to Jalen Brunson. I don't think he's the problem. They have a lot to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also very young still, which is great that they were able to make this type of run, which no Knicks fan expected.
Yeah. All I wonder is just if he's the guy that can get you over the top. That's my question.
They need somebody else. That's not a question. And if they could keep Randall and get another star, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they most likely need to trade Randall and get somebody better.
Yeah. So
good win for Miami.
Yeah, the Heat didn't really do anything special, like you said. Jimmy Butler wasn't crazy. He was.
They
very
played
good.
like they've been there before.
Yeah,
like Kevin Love, his outlet passes are amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Lowry was tough.
Yeah,
Max Strus, he was pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna get paid.
Probably.
Yeah.
And hey, we saw Duncan Robinson.
Hey, he hit a few threes.
This is what I've been talking about though for the Knicks. Like, how did they paid him, then they sat him, and then all of a sudden they're playing him again, and he's doing fine. Like,
it's because Tyler Hero was hurt.
I mean, I guess,
Hero
but
was
like,
healthy.
How can
Strus would be getting all of those minutes?
I mean, I guess, but like Duncan Robinson,
it is weird
like,
after paying him though.
If you have like Tyler Hero getting like starters minutes, you can find minutes for Strus and Duncan Robinson to just sit in corners and shoot threes. To me, it just doesn't make sense. But another one of my little gripes. So the Heat win 4-2. They win 6 games. Great. Heat get to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then we have the Sixers and the Celtics. I know you have a lot to say about this one.
We should both have a lot to say.
I don't know.
Because there are multiple angles. There's a coach that's gone.
But realistically...
There's an MVP that didn't show up. There's a former MVP that we knew wouldn't show up.
Realistically, we should not have anything to talk about because, like you said, they're all things that they've done before.
You do have a good point.
We kind of know.
Yeah.
We should have known. But people always think that it's different. We've been trusting the process for, 12 years?
I mean, we haven't been trusting the process for...
No, but
yeah,
we've been going through the process.
Philly fans have.
Yeah. And then Ben Simmons just posts on Instagram.
He needs to go somewhere. Posting that is the beyond... You didn't play this year, Ben.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's funny. So the Sixers, if you haven't been able to tell,
they were
lost.
up 3-2.
Yeah.
The 76ers, last time when we were supposed to do this podcast last week, the 76ers were up 3-2.
Yeah.
And I think the day we were going to do our podcast was when it was Game 6.
Mm-hmm.
Sixers were favored. Game was at home. Joel Embiid, the MVP, and James Harden, who had 2 40-point games in that series.
Mm-hmm.
2 big games to get them up 3-2. They're supposed to close it out.
Even had a game winner.
Yeah. And Jason Tatum was terrible through 3 quarters. Marcus Smart was keeping him afloat. How do you think that game is supposed to end when you hear something like that?
Yeah.
The Sixers are supposed to win. Instead, Jason Tatum goes off for 16 in the fourth, 4 or 5 from 3. Joel Embiid and James Harden can't do anything. Doc Rivers can't adjust, and the Celtics win 96-88 on the road. At that point, I think we might have texted each other and said this series is over. We pretty much agreed.
Yeah.
How the Sixers, they do get to Game 7.
Game 7 was the best of them all.
I thought at least the Sixers would give it everything they had.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a close game for most of it. And then the Celtics would separate.
Tobias Harris was their leading scorer in
19
Game 7.
points. PJ Tucker kept them in the game in the first quarter for the most part. They gave up a 28-3 run in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Let's go over to the other side first. Jason Tatum at 25 in the first half. That was my favorite half of basketball I've ever seen Jason Tatum play. The way he was attacking the rim and not forcing threes, it frustrates me that he doesn't do it more because he was unguardable.
Yep.
They couldn't stop him from getting to the rim. When he wasn't making shots, he was getting fouled. He was hitting free throws. They couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
And that got him to a rhythm to the point where he started hitting threes, and then he just couldn't be stopped.
Yeah.
He ended the game with 51. Huge chunk of the 28-3 run. Philly was
lethargic.
I want to find what's the worst word you could say about Philly. They were an embarrassment. They were an embarrassment to Philly. They were an embarrassment to the NBA. They were an embarrassment to basketball.
Now, something that I remember exactly what we were talking about in our group chat. Early on in this series, James Harden was unstoppable. But what did
Game 1 and 3.
What did we say? James Harden in Game 7 is not good.
Closeout games. He has a long list of closeout games in his career where he just can't get it done.
He finished this game with 9 points.
Say that again.
7 assists, 6 rebounds.
How many points?
9 points.
9 points in a closeout game.
3 for
This
11.
is one of the greatest scorers of all time.
And he wants to go back to Houston,
Listen,
supposedly.
man, we know why he wants to go back, but we can't talk about that on this podcast.
Joel Embiid, your MVP. 5 and 18, 0 for 4 from the 3, 15 points, 8 rebounds.
I still think he deserved that regular season award, but when he gets to the playoffs, something happens.
He averaged 31 points in the regular season. 33.
Yeah.
He averaged 23 in the playoffs.
Down 10 points.
It was the worst margin ever, historically.
You're supposed to go up in the playoffs.
Yeah. And like we said, like Jason Tatum, yes, he had 51 points in the fourth in Game 7. But we also saw Jason Tatum be terrible at times in this series. Like he started a game off with a playoff record 0 for 13.
Yeah.
And he figured out how to win them the game in the fourth quarter. So it's mind-boggling. The other one is Doc Rivers is now 0 for 7, I believe, in Game 7s.
It's incredible.
So
one of the greatest coaches in NBA history.
He's been fired. Just
0 of 7 in
knows.
Game 7s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the Sixers just have to blow it up again?
Listen, I think it's almost worse to be a Sixers fan than a Pistons fan today.
Yeah.
You had hopes for a championship this season.
Mm-hmm.
And now it might literally be all over.
Yep.
Like, do you just rebuild with Tyrese Maxey?
Yeah.
You're keeping Joel Embiid. He's not just leaving.
You keep Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Do you need to keep anybody else? Anybody? I don't think so.
Like, what do you do? I have no idea what the Sixers do in this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's the coach that you hire? Who is going to fix this?
I think they would need to go with like Mike Budenholzer. I think that's like the best situation.
They need to fix up. They need to change the offense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a part of it. But
I think they need to step up their defense too a little bit.
I think another part is I don't think Joel Embiid can ever play a full regular season again.
Yeah.
Every time he's gotten to the playoffs,
he's tired.
He is either tired or he gets hurt. Mm-hmm. His body can't handle it. And that's unfortunate. That may not be fully his fault. Mm-hmm. But he can't put everything into regular seasons anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that takes away from the getting a good seed for the Sixers. Mm-hmm. Like, do they ever finish top 3 again? Because I don't know if Joel should play more than 50 games in the regular season.
Yeah. You know, they're starting to turn into, like, the Portland Trailblazers. They're a regular season team, and they just can't get over the hump, it feels like. That's, like, the trajectory.
You know what Dame and CJ did once? Made the conference finals.
That's
with
true.
Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless.
That's true.
They did it one time.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is the only MVP in NBA history.
Was that the year?
The only one.
Was that the year that Dame hit the buzzer beater?
When they beat OKC and they lost to Golden State in like 5. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's the only MVP in NBA history to not make a conference final yet.
Yeah,
his reputation, it's going to take a whole lot for him to get his reputation back, and in his city he plays in, first of all, but league wide, seeing what Jokic is doing right now.
Yeah,
I don't know how he saves himself.
Right. Especially when people are like, okay, sure, Robert Williams is also a very good defensive center. He seemingly, made enough of an effect on Joel Embiid.
That wasn't the primary defender.
Right. But
guess who it was?
Al Horford, Jason Tatum.
Old Al.
Yeah.
Al Horford played better than Joel Embiid in Game 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Like, what? If you're a Philadelphia, I wouldn't be able to wrap my mind around that fact. Yeah. It is an absolute fact that Al Horford just took Joel out of the game for 6 and 7.
Meanwhile, Jokic just tearing up Anthony Davis, Jared Vanderbilt, guys like that.
It's a worse torture than the Pistons to me. At least the Pistons know pain.
Yeah,
they know the pain of losing. The pain that the Sixers are facing right now. That's a different kind of pain.
Yeah, the Sixers are at that point of being a good team that just can't get it done.
And then they had Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. They paid Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
They drafted Ben Simmons 1. Mm-hmm. He made 3 All-NBA teams and then mentally
collapsed,
faded away.
And then they decided
Markelle Fultz, you pass on Jason Tatum.
They decided we have to go with James Harden to save our season. He's not been known to be a playoff guy.
Listen, Sixers fans, I feel bad for you.
Yeah,
because that's tough.
Yeah, they got a lot to do.
Celtics fans, welcome back to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yep,
you have another opportunity, and I think I might favor them to win the championship. I think they have what it takes.
Yeah,
Tatum is in his full rhythm. Mm-hmm. Marcus Smart is playing great basketball. I think their whole team is healthy. I think they're in a good groove.
Yeah.
Now Joe Mazzulla could still make some mistakes, but he outcoached Doc Rivers in Game 6 and 7. He outcoached Doc, and I think that could be a big step for him and the rest of the team. And I just love the way the Celtics have played.
Yeah. I start to get to the point now where I don't know how anybody stops Nikola Jokic.
Nobody can.
So, like, if they get past the Lakers and they play the Celtics in the finals, I mean, that'd be a good matchup.
That's the matchup I honestly want. Everybody's going to say they want Lakers-Celtics again. Mm-hmm. That would be crazy ratings, obviously.
Yeah.
But I want to see Denver make their first final.
Right.
I want to see Nikola Jokic on the biggest stage.
Yeah. And if people aren't aware, these are the bubble finals. Yeah. So now people are making all the memes that the bubble actually mattered, blah, blah, blah.
That was 3 years ago.
Yeah, these teams are different.
Yeah, completely different.
People were posting all sorts of stuff. But
listen, did you see there were people saying the Lakers should have kept Dwight Howard.
Oh, yeah.
And he would be the one. This is not 2020.
Yeah.
This version of Nikola Jokic is better than 2020. And the 2020 version was great.
Yeah.
This guy right here, Dwight Howard isn't stopping this
You
guy.
need 2010 Dwight Howard. That's what you need.
2020 Dwight Howard will probably give him problems.
Yeah.
But Nicola's getting what he wants to get in all aspects of the game.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And when he's locked in on defense, he can actually be a solid defender.
I just think the matchups between Denver and the Celtics would be really good. I think KCP matches up decently with Jaylen Brown. Obviously, Jaylen Brown's the much better player, but it's somebody that's a 3-and-D kind of guy, can maybe stop Jaylen Brown. Michael Porter versus Jason Tatum would be kind of fun. I'm sure they would rotate.
They'd probably put Aaron Gordon on Jason Tatum.
Right.
Yeah.
So they'd rotate a little bit.
And they probably put Horford on Nikola Jokic, which, seeing what he did with Embiid, he might give Jokic some problems, but Jokic is more crafty than Embiid.
And then Marcus Smart guarding Jamal Murray would be cool.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a lot of cool matchups, I think, in my opinion, comparatively to maybe some of the other ones. But we'll see Heat and Celtics tonight, starting the Eastern Conference Finals. Do you have any predictions on this series?
Jimmy Butler is my favorite player. It would be incredible if he kept this going. Because the higher level of respect people keep giving Jimmy, the more happy it makes me. Because I've been in on Jimmy since he walked into Minnesota and just wrecked shop.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the most positive thing he did, but I loved every second of it. And ever since then, he's been proven when he gets to the playoffs, he's just on a different level. He is a animal.
Yeah.
And it would be crazy if he pulled this off. But I don't expect it. The Heat don't have enough.
Yeah.
They'll probably try to throw out Tyler Hero in like game 3 or 4. But it probably won't work.
Yeah. My favorite meme that I kind of actually made myself is with Jimmy Butler, how it started. You remember his preseason picture?
Yeah.
With the long dreads. Just looking.
He kind of looks like Jar Jar Binks in that picture, but we're not.
Just looking goofy. And then I went to his game winner. I can't remember which game, where he's just like fired up and stuff, and how it's going is just. It's a wild season, I think, for Jimmy Butler. So I hope this one goes the distance.
I hope it at least goes like 6.
Yeah.
I hope it's not wrapped up quick.
Right.
Because Miami is tough enough, and Eric Spoelstra is years ahead of Joe Mazzulla as a coach. Like, Eric Spoelstra still might be the most underrated coach because people just don't give him his due as probably the best coach in the league.
Right. Yeah, the Heat, I think, have more possible production from their other guys. Even though Brogdon is 6th man of the year and, you know, the Celtics have good bench players, I think the Heat just have a little bit better bench. And we've seen Jason Tatum struggle in and out of games at times. But, yeah, my prediction would be Celtics Nuggets in the end, I think. Maybe it's kind of boring and chalky, but I think that would be the fun matchup. Obviously, I don't want to see the Lakers go through. And
at this point, I wouldn't be mad. Just because I like this version of the Lakers. I don't like them. I don't mind watching them because they were so terrible in the beginning, even though it was funny to watch them.
Yeah.
But watching them play good basketball is entertaining as someone who loves the sport.
Out of the Eastern Conference side, I don't think I really care either way. I like both teams. Well, kind of the same. I don't like necessarily either team, but I'd be okay with it. I like the way that they play at least. I think I would rather see the Heat, just because I can't stand the Celtics as a franchise, even though I like their players. But yeah, I think the Heat's story would be a little bit cooler. Ultimately, I want the Denver Nuggets to win the whole thing at this point, with the Warriors being out and the Knicks being out.
I kind of want Jason Tatum to get his first ring. I really want that to happen, but seeing the Celtics get another banner would be kind of annoying. Yeah, once it got to the finals, I just want to watch and enjoy it.
Yeah,
as it gets there.
As a Pistons,
I would love if the Nuggets got it though.
As a Pistons fan, it's just really hard seeing Lakers, Celtics. Like I said, the Spurs are getting to that point for me. So I don't know. There's like a small personal vendetta. Anyway, I think that's everything for today. Not really any NFL news. I kind of looked around and I couldn't find anything or remember anything that had happened. There's a lot of little things. So not too much to talk about on the NFL. Maybe next week there will be more. But we're now we're back to that point of we're just talking NBA playoffs, any little news or notes. So we're really at the point where we might throw a fun episode in to go along.
It goes to the summertime, so we're almost there.
Right, to go with some quick NBA playoff episodes with some just fun stuff, topics to talk about in between. But this has been Views from the Sidelines. We'll see you guys next time.
I don't ever want to hear anything about James Harden being one of the top anything ever again. He's an all-time great, but I won't even acknowledge him. Give me Mitch Richmond over him.